Dark and difficult times lie ahead. Soon we must all face the choice between what is right and what is easy.
As far as we know, there is no acknowledged tort for privacy in English law when talking about those who are not acting in a professional capacity covered under GDPR. There are, however, ways that privacy is protected, and this has been acknowledged in case law, but courts have always been reluctant to create a specific law over privacy. A limited right to privacy was established in the case Coco versus A.N. Clark, which was based upon an existing right, breach of confidence. Breach of confidence in English law is an equitable doctrine, which allows a person to claim a remedy when their confidence has been breached. A duty of confidence arises when confidential information comes to the knowledge of a person in circumstances which it would be unfair if it were disclosed to others. Breach of confidence can also give rise to a civil claim. The Human Rights Act 1988 has developed the law on breach of confidence so that it now applies to private bodies as well as public ones. However, this breach of confidence, which may on occasions be attributed to breach of privacy, is still pretty unclear for many people. We've all seen examples on YouTube of videos where people suggest their privacy is being breached by being photographed or videoed when in a public place. But whether their privacy is in fact being breached is a complex matter. What many people fail to realise is that breach of privacy has multiple facets. There's an absolute expectation of privacy, reasonable expectation of privacy, which will for this video encompass the limited right to privacy we've just spoke of. And then there's the no expectation of privacy. There may be more obscure levels, but for this video we're going to be focusing on these three, as I feel they cover almost every eventuality. The ongoing legal debate on whether the UK should recognise a tort for invasion of privacy by statute or common law has been playing out since 1961. When the Private Member Bill, A Right to Privacy, was introduced by Lord Mancroft in the House of Lords. The first clause of this bill proposed that a person should have a right of action against any other person who, without his consent, published of or concerning him in any newspaper or by means of cinematography, exhibition, television or sound broadcasting, or words relating to his personal affairs or conduct. Now, although two of the three judges, Lords Goddard and Lords Denning, were in favour of the bill, the third judge, speaking for the government, Viscount Kilmuir, felt that the difficulties involved in creating a new legal right of privacy, which would restrain the improper invasion of privacy, without at the same time interfering with proper reporting of matters which ought to be reported, were such as to outweigh the merits of the proposal. My interpretation of this statement is that it would be too difficult to create a standalone legal right to privacy which allowed the gathering and disseminating of information whilst taking into account an individual's rights to privacy due to the many factors that would need to be involved. These were then followed by governmental expert reports on the matter, such as the Justice Report 1970, the Calcutt Report 1990 and the National Heritage Report 1993. The Calcutt Report on invasion of privacy concluded that there was no pressing social need to provide remedy for those whose image or voices are appropriated without their consent. They suggested protection of breach of confidence despite the fact that it was questionable whether it can cover this aspect of privacy. As the law presently stands, when considering a claim for actual or threatened misuse of private information, the courts must look at two questions. The first question is an objective one, that is, what a reasonable person of ordinary sensibilities would feel if he or she was placed in the same position as the claimant and faced with the same publicity. The question whether there is reasonable expectation of privacy is a broad one, taking into account all the circumstances of a case, which would include the attributes of the claimant, the nature of the activity in which the claimant was engaged, the place at which it was happening, the nature and purpose of the intrusion, the absence of consent and whether it was known or could be inferred that consent was absent, the effect on the claimant, the circumstances in which and the purpose for which the information came into the hands of the publisher. It is not possible to draw a distinction in principle between, on the one hand, engaging in activity which is clearly part of a person's private recreation time, intended to be enjoyed with the company of family and friends, and on the other hand, routine acts such as walking down the street, a ride on a bus, or a visit to the grocer's to buy milk. It simply all depends on the circumstances. Now, if the answer to the first question as to whether the individual has a reasonable expectation of privacy is yes, the second question is how the balance should be struck between the individual's right to privacy on one hand and the publisher's right to publish on the other. the court must balance the competing convention rights under Articles 8 and Articles 10, applying the tests of proportionality to each. Now, these two simple questions give rise to all three levels of privacy spoke about earlier: absolute, reasonable, and no expectation of privacy. Many people would expect their every action to be covered by the absolute expectation of privacy, and although this is understandable, it's completely inaccurate. An absolute expectation of privacy would include such activities and places as in your home, in the doctor's surgery or a solicitor's office, or a private meeting with a private person on private property in a private room. I think we can all agree that these places are the kinds of places we would absolutely expect a full level of privacy. Reasonable expectation of privacy would include such places and activities as at a cash machine, maybe in the back of an ambulance in the street, at the inquiry desk of a police station, as these places are all accessible by the public either by sight or by actual access, and as such can never really be deemed as somewhere where you could expect absolute privacy. The third expectation is no expectation of privacy, and this would include such places and activities as walking down the road to the local shop, browsing through a shop in a high street, playing football in a park, maybe walking through the courtyard of a private property which has access or views from a public space. Something to think about when determining whether someone has reasonable or no expectation of privacy is to establish if the location or subject has made reasonable attempts to make the area or person you are filming or photographing private. By which I mean, is there a wall around the location which is designed to specifically stop people seeing into the premises? Has the person entered a room where they can close a door and your view of them is obscured unless you physically open the door to see them? These cases may well indeed be deemed as infringing someone's absolute right to privacy, especially if you have to climb a wall or open a door. But reasonable expectation, and in some cases no expectation of privacy, may encompass such situations as a private area that has been fenced off but can still be seen to. The areas directly outside of any walled or fenced off areas, for example. And there are many more examples, I just don't have the time to list them here. In fact, it's such a contentious issue that most interactions and advice that photographers have are vastly different.
What can we and can't we take photographs of in the UK?
Pretty much you can take photographs of anything you want to, certainly if you're in a public place. There are some restrictions. The Official Secrets Act prevents you from taking pictures of, shall we say, military establishments and that sort of thing. But other than that, in public place, you can do what you like.
Have I done so wrong?
Well, it's not just police cars that come in here, is it? It's people's personal cars.
Okay.
So, how do you think? How does that look?
Well, I wasn't recording people's personal cars.
I don't know, do I?
And besides, that is no matter. If they're in public,
Well, at the minute, they're all behind that gate.
Yeah.
So not in public, are they?
can you see any of the number plates from here?
Yeah, but when they pull up to the gate, when they're still on police property, you would be able to see the registration plates and you will be recording them.
It's a urgent question. Very good question, because I don't want to get arrested. Is it okay to sell? Could you not record me?
I can record where I want. It's a public place.
You can't just fucking
I
record
can.
me, mate.
I can. He'll tell you that.
Alright then, well I think you're a cunt. Alright?
Public disorder.
What are you
Public order offence, officer.
what are you doing?
He just swore at me. He just swore at me, officer.
What can't you, what shouldn't you take photographs of, regardless of whether you're legally entitled to or not?
Everybody's worried about terrorism in this day and age, and there are, throughout the UK, numerous, shall we say, sensitive locations. And if you start taking pictures of those, especially if you're taking detailed, involved pictures of them, you might find yourself coming under scrutiny of the police to find out what it is that you're doing. There are also other areas of activity. If you're photographing a person and you're constantly photographing that person and following them around the streets, you might find that there are stalking implications here. Photographing children, even in public places, often comes under scrutiny as well. Somebody will turn up and ask you what it is that you're doing. The fact is, you can still take pictures of them, but you just have to be a little bit careful about upsetting and annoying other people. Yeah. That's the biggest risk to photographers, I think.
Hello sir, you okay?
I'm fine, thank you. You
You
alright?
Can I ask what you're doing?
For the 8th time, I'm getting stock footage
Okay, of.
of police cars.
Right, brilliant.
Do you mind?
Yeah, I do.
because you're getting personal plates of police officers and police vehicles, and we think that's suspicious, to be honest.
I've taken some pictures of the sea, out there, down there, up there. So, you know.
Yeah, but out there's fine.
I have a right in public
out
to phone whatever I like.
When you're taking photos of the police station, we've got a bit of an issue with that.
No, I have a right to.
So is it alright if I can just grab some of your details?
No, you can't. Not unless you're going to arrest me.
I'm not going to arrest
Unless you, then I don't have to give you my details.
You know.
Are there any situations when a police officer could or should approach you? Obviously, when you're shooting in public, do you have the right to stop people? And if so, when does that right kick in?
Basically, the police won't have a right to stop you from photographing at all, unless you're going to be arrested for an offence, associated or not associated with taking those pictures, in which case, yes, they're obviously going to stop you doing it then. There are circumstances where, if you're going to be searched under provisions of the Terrorism Act, that your camera and what you are doing with that camera constitute evidence of the offence that you're going to be arrested for, in which case they would be seized then. But other than that, no.
What you doing?
What does it look like I'm doing?
Right. Why are you recording people?
I'm not recording people.
Right. Yes, you are, sir. Yes, you are. I suggest you move on and leave people alone.
I suggest you don't push me or touch me.
All right. Do you want to put your camera down and move?
Not really.
Hey?
Is there a law against me filming?
What's your name? Well, it's
Have I
against
committed?
people's rights.
Don't touch my. Don't touch my camera.
What's your name?
Don't touch my camera.
What's your name?
You have no right to touch my
You've
camera.
got no right to film people.
What's your name and number?
I'm PC Fenton Smythe.
And what?
No. And are there any instances when a security guard, for example, could stop you?
Security guards, a difficult situation, because if they're in private premises, like a shopping centre for instance, a security guard will ask you to leave if they don't like you photographing, tell you to stop or leave the premises. They can't seize your equipment. They can simply exercise the proprietary powers of the site that they're on. You might not always know that you're on private premises, and so just be a little bit wary of that.
Sorry? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Why not?
You're not allowed to. Government building.
Sorry?
Government building. You're not allowed to.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I'll just do a quick video, that's all.
No, you're not allowed to.
Why?
It's a government building.
Okay, so?
So you can't video it.
Hey, shush!
I'd love to do it.
Shush!
Why?
I'd love to see it.
Shush!
Who's going to put...
You're talking about violence now. We're not talking about violence.
Who's talking about violence?
You!
You were waving your arm in his hand.
Look at you.
Look at your face.
For me now.
Your face is...
Again, I'm going to react. Watch.
What do you mean you're going to react?
Watch. Simple. I've just told you. Who do you think you are?
Who do I think I am? I'm just trying to do my job, but you're walking around.
What is your job?
Do you work out here? Do you work out here, yeah?
I work
You're
for
doing
the
your job
building.
in a public space, guys. You see this? Is your job controlling people taking photos?
End of the day, you don't have the right to put out. We have spoken to you. We're on footage. You do not have our rights.
Yes, I do, and I am.
If I find myself on YouTube, then we will take...
You're actually going to... Two of us will do it.
And is there a right way and a wrong way to react when approached in public, whether it's by a police officer, a PCSO, security?
Politely. They may not know the law. They may not know the law.
They may not know the law.
And they may think they do, and they may think they do.
And they may think they do.
And often they will, but they won't always. If you disagree with them politely, ask them what authority and power they have to ask or demand what they're demanding. If they're simply asking, then that's a different kettle of fish. If they're demanding that you do something, ask for the authority and the power that they're doing it. And if you still disagree with them, find out who they are, but I would suggest that you still comply, or otherwise it can just spiral.
Have you sought permission from the press office in relation to filming police vehicles and persons, public vehicles coming in and out of the police station? Are you listening?
Who's he?
He's the inspector.
Inspector? Inspector. I presume you've had that letter from ACPO with regards to public photography and videography.
Yes,
yeah, but you're
we
filming
cannot
okay.
stop public filming. I've done it at fatal RTCs. We can't stop people from filming. Okay, what we're trying to do is prevent people causing annoyance, which is in relation to Section 50 of the Police the Act. Okay, the Police Reform Act. Okay. And when you break it down, I've printed that off. You can take that if you want.
I've got everything I need here.
Yeah, that's fine.
You're causing annoyance now.
Okay,
So officers
you're
are
now
now
causing
leaving
annoyance.
to go home.
The fact is that you failed to provide your name and address is committing the offence. In this offence which you may be likely to get arrested for. So I'll ask you again, have you sought permission from the press office to come and film?
To film from private property, from public property.
It's just a question, have you sought permission?
I don't need permission to film or photograph from a public property. I can take...
Into a private place, yes you do.
I'm sorry, Inspector, that's incorrect.
Name and address.
Hi. Just to let you know, I'm just around the police station, just making a video.
Okay.
That's all. Just because last time I did, I had 4 police officers. They came at me like crazy, and they put me in handcuffs and everything.
Okay, you come here for a reason, have you?
I'm just around, just to let you know that I'll be outside making a video. Why? That's all.
Is there any particular reason?
I can't tell you right now, but the reason I'm telling you is so, like I said, last time I'd done this, 4 police officers came, they put me in handcuffs, and
because it
was crazy.
Reasonable for us to understand, because
yeah.
We take the security of police stations very seriously.
Yeah, of course, I understand.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing anything, it's just making a story.
No, but
I'm just gathering...
we don't know that you're not...
Oh, right. I'm telling you, I'm not. I'm definitely not.
Well,
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go all around the police station.
No, that's not... Are you recording now, sir?
Yes, sir, yeah.
Okay.
So I'll be doing this now, yeah?
Well, why are you doing it, sir?
I'm just making a story, I'm just letting you know.
So it says you, but what story are you making?
Well, it's just a story.
I think we need an officer to speak to you then, sir, don't we?
And does a police officer have the right to confiscate, take away gear, or force someone to delete photographs?
If they're arrested for the offence, then your property will be seized at that point. Your property generally will be seized if you're arrested anyway. If it's evidence of the offence, it might be some time before you get it back. But nobody's going to be deleting anything without a court order or similar.
It's a quite clear cut, actually, that. Okay.
I said, what are you doing?
I'm minding my own business. What are you doing?
I'll tell you what then.
Hang on, let's get one of you then. Oh, don't be so shy. Listen, let go of the camera. No. You're under arrest. Right, okay, I'm under arrest. Which law am I breaking then? Would you like to tell me which law I might be breaking? I'm not breaking anything. Okay, in that case then, please leave me alone. Okay.
And why are you taking pictures?
All right then. Right. Hang on. Am I under arrest? You are now. Right, thank you.
You're harassing me. I don't want my picture taken, thank you. Right, this is the police station.
You're assaulting me.
I'm not assaulting you at all. This is police grounds.
Get off.
Terrorism is obviously a very current concern. Can you tell us about Section 44 of the Terrorism Act? Is it still current? And if so, what do we need to know as photographers?
Section 44 was a section which allowed senior officer to authorise or designate an area in which powers of stop and search could be exercised without having any grounds. Anybody found in that area who the officer wanted to search could be searched. That has been repealed and is no longer in force. The only power under the Terrorism Act is Section 43 of the Terrorism Act, where reasonable grounds to suspect certain articles are going to be found must exist before search. Essentially, the searching officer has to suspect that you're a terrorist before they're going to be searching you.
And in the heightened state of terrorism that we've got at the moment, we don't know if you're doing hostile reconnaissance on our vehicles. Okay.
Do you have reason to believe that I'm doing hostile reconnaissance?
In this day and age, yes, sir.
So you have reason to believe right now. You have reasonable suspicion.
Under the Terrorism Act, I don't need to believe.
Okay. Hold on a minute.
What? To take your property off someone else's property?
Hang on a minute. Let's get back to the reasonable suspicion.
I don't need reasonable suspicion under the terrorism activities.
Which one?
Section 44 of the Terrorism Act. I don't need reasonable suspicion under the terrorism activities.
Which one?
Section 44 of the Terrorism Act.
I don't need reasonable suspicion under the terrorism activities. Section 44 of the Terrorism Act.
Oh, right, Section 44, well, we can go away then, because Section 44 doesn't exist anymore.
It does, actually.
It doesn't, actually.
It does.
No, it doesn't.
It does.
No, it doesn't.
Liberty
Section 44.
tried to repeal the act.
Section 44 does not exist anymore.
You realise we are on a heightened security alert?
I do.
Within the police station.
I do.
You continue anyway.
Pardon?
And yet you continue
But
anyway.
I gave you a legit.
Stephen?
No, no. Your colleagues already asked me numerous times, am I Stephen Bradbury?
Yes.
And I'm not.
All right. What's your name,
Okay.
please?
Well, I'm about to identify myself
Yes,
to you,
thank you.
under duress.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Please do.
Okay.
And I know you're filming, but you won't tell us what it's for. A member of the public has told me that you've been acting really strangely. You've had a backpack on, and as soon as you
My backpack's there with my equipment in it.
You've had a backpack on, and as soon as this member of the public has seen you, you've then brought your visor down trying to hide your identity.
No, rubbish.
Right, I'm not happy with that, and I'm not happy at all. And with that in mind, you come under my mate. So do you want to take a seat in the car?
Okay.
Willingly?
Well, yes, willingly.
Take a seat in the car.
Is that his fault?
Yeah, it is. All right. Do you want to take a seat in the car? Right, I'll tell you what, let's make this official. Right, pal, you're under arrest, so you don't have to say anything, but in my defence, if you do not mention my question, something you later rely in court, and anything you do say may be given as evidence.
Okay.
I'm not happy with what you've been telling me. I don't know where these images are going to go. I'm concerned that they're going to go onto a website that maybe utilise them for a purpose that may endanger life or something to that effect. Therefore, you're under arrest under the Terrorism Act.
So is photography as an activity in itself enough to warrant suspicion from a police officer?
Suspicion, yes. Curiosity, probably a better thing. If you're taking a photograph, you may well attract the attention of the police, and the circumstances will dictate, in a sense, how far they're going to go with it. If you're taking detailed pictures of the underside of a flyover, you might attract more attention than if you're taking pictures of a picturesque gateway of Peterborough Cathedral, for instance.
In order to keep your photography or filming safe from police interference, my advice is to ask yourself if the place or person you are capturing has made reasonable efforts to be private. If they have not, then in my opinion there can be no call for a privacy complaint or any other breach of privacy laws. Even when the police try the old "you can't film our personal vehicles" trick, well, unless there have been reasonable attempts made to conceal the identity of themselves or their vehicles, then there can't be a reasonable expectation of privacy. And based on this, I can't see a court ruling in their favour unless, of course, the judge is as corrupt as the police trying to abuse their powers. Now, of course, we also have to take into account private property that is accessible by the public. In law, a public place is defined as premises or place to which at the material time the public have or are permitted to have access, whether on payment or otherwise. That's section 33 of the Criminal Justice Act 1972. And this was defined in order to give better understanding for the Public Order Act 1936, which was enacted to prohibit the wearing of a uniform in connection with political objects and the maintenance by private persons of associations of military or similar character, and to make further provisions for the preservation of public order on the occasions of public processions and meetings in public places. Now, this ultimately means that anywhere, even private property, at the time of your entering the property, there was access to the public via an open gate or an open door, for example, either upon payable admission or otherwise, i.e. free admission, is classed as a public place. Therefore, I believe that reasonable or absolute expectation of privacy cannot be observed. Again, this would be a different matter if you had to open a gate to gain access, for example, as there would then be an argument for reasonable expectation of privacy. Now, I would love to hear your views on this matter. Of course, this information is based on what I've found during researching the subject, but you may have alternative views which I would love to hear and discuss with you. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you like the content and you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so. In the description of every video there are some links to ways that you're able to help support the channel so I can continue putting out content. If you're unable to help us in that way, hit that subscribe button up the top there. If you haven't already, become a subscriber. That is support enough. Share the videos, comment, like, it all helps. If you're looking for something else to watch, up top there is my latest video. Down the bottom there is a video that YouTube recommends for you.